Hello, everyone. Today we are with Laurence Halsted. Laurence is now located in Denmark. He's a two-time Olympian. He's a vice European champion. He was ranked number 15 as his highest ranking in men's foil. And he's now the high performance program director of the Fencing Federation of Denmark. So please welcome with me, Laurence. Hi, Laurence. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for taking the time. Can you give us a short introduction about yourself quickly?
Right, you gave an introduction to my fencing CV. So yeah, I was fencing since the age of 7. Actually, I have both my parents were Olympic fencers. Mm-hmm. So they both competed in 2 Olympics. And I had the great fortune, we all did in the UK, of winning the bid for the London Olympics. So after I graduated, it was the first opportunity to be a professional fencer in the UK. So I didn't have to choose what I wanted to do after university. It was obvious. And I could actually follow my dreams, because I didn't really have dreams to be a top fencer, because it didn't really exist in Britain at the time. So we set up a national team and trained towards the London and then the Rio Olympics. And actually in between those 2 Olympics, I moved to Denmark. So I've been here for about 7 years now. And yeah, after I retired from Rio, I got involved in a sports charity, which is based in the US and the UK, called the True Athlete Project, which we'll talk a bit about later. But is really connects to my journey and to what we're going to talk about today, mindfulness.
Great. So, you were mentioning mindfulness. So today's topic is literally we want to dig into the topic of mindfulness. Can you give us a short introduction to what mindfulness basically is?
Yeah, the really short definition is mindfulness is the focused attention in the present moment, and importantly, non-judgmentally. So it's basically being aware of what is happening for you right now, either what's happening in your head, your thoughts and emotions that are coming up, what's happening, what the feelings in your body are, what's going on around you, just all of your senses. What is your experience right now? And not attaching yourself to any of those things. So especially thoughts and emotions, you're not judging them. You're not kind of connecting too closely to them. You're just observing them. That's in a nutshell, that's what mindfulness is.
All right. And what are basically the benefits of it? What would you say?
Well, there's a lot of research into mindfulness now, and it's always growing. The benefits overall are kind of incredible. I mean, they sound almost unbelievable. They've been found to be advantages for dealing with all sorts of mental health concerns, all the kind of nervousness and anxiety, and even depression, and even severe depression and post-traumatic stress syndrome. Mindfulness has proven to be quite helpful. It can help with concentration, and even with lowering your blood rate, your what's that called, your blood flow. And they have incredible incredible benefits around it. So it's really a tool for everybody. It's not just for athletes, and it's certainly not just for Buddhist monks. But we can talk a bit about specifically what it is useful for athletes as well.
That would be great. I mean, I have to say I did my own research. I was looking around what research is existing, and even the US military is using mindfulness now in their programs to reduce stress before a combat fight, or to also reduce stress afterwards. So this is why it's great to have you on this topic. Can you give us some information about how to use it as an athlete?
Yeah, well, the place to start with this is that we all know as fencers that, and all athletes will say something similar, that the sport is hugely mental, right? If you ask a fencer how much of it is mental, how much of it is physical, it's somewhere between 50 and 80% mental. And then if you ask, well, how much mental psychological training do you do? Yeah, you get some mental training whilst fencing itself. That's part of the game. But compared to the amount of physical training that you do in the gym or just outside of the fencing hall, it's almost nothing. I mean, maybe a little bit here and there. You might see a psychologist or get a workshop or write down some of your thoughts, but it's just almost nothing, which is, there's this huge imbalance here. If it's 80% mental and with almost never focusing on the mental aspect of training, then I think there's something wrong. So what mindfulness offers is a way to train every day in almost every kind of context. What you can practice mindfulness anywhere, and just kind of readdress that balance of doing some mental training. And the way that it is mental training, the easiest way to think about it is you're training your ability to focus on what's happening right now. And I heard this term that in high performance, attention, your focus of attention is the currency. So it's like the version of money is attention. So the more focused attention you can control, the more currency you have to play with in sport and in performance. So what you're doing with mindfulness is training your focused attention. And there really is, I mean, we know just how important it is to be able to concentrate for quite long periods in a fencing match. And the moment you're not concentrating, you lose the point. Almost kind of like that. If you switch off for more than a second, you've lost the point. Even for a second, you lost the point. And we've all experienced having lost focus for a whole match or half the match, or the whole 3 points have gone by, and then you realize, oh, I wasn't even focused.
Right.
So the question is, how do you train your concentration? And there's really very few ways that you can. I mean, there are some fancy computer programs you can try and use. That you can practice fencing on the piste and try and focus. But really, the one way that we know you can train your concentration is through mindfulness. So coming back to that, your mindfulness is, if you ignore all of the kind of the religious and spiritual roots, it is about training your focus to be on whatever's happening right now. And when you go through the practice of mindfulness, I can explain a little bit what practice is, but when you go through that practice, you'll realize very quickly that you try and focus on something that's happening now, and your mind disappears. It goes off into something else. It'll think about the future, what's happened before, how stupid this exercise seems, what you want to have for dinner, and all you want to do is focus on what's happening right now. And when that happens, your mind wanders off. You don't judge yourself. You don't think that you're doing badly, you're doing mindfulness badly. You just bring it back to your focus. And then it happens again, and you bring it back, and it happens again. And this happens constantly. And the best mindfulness masters will still have wandering minds. It never quietens down to nothing. That in itself is a useful acknowledgement. But basically, it's like you go to the gym and you do reps to strengthen your muscle. That refocusing of your brain, of your mind, is just like a rep in the gym, is strengthening that focus muscle.
And how do you bring your mind back? What can you do?
So the simplest kind of form of mindfulness is just about focus on the breath. Okay. So if you start mindfulness, or if you use an app, they will almost always start with kind of, you sit in a nice position, feet on the floor, straight back, and you can often close your eyes, and then you just try and focus on the feeling of breathing in and out. You don't change, you don't do anything special, you don't breathe heavily, or you just breathe normally, and you try and notice the feeling in your body, the breath coming in and out of your nose, or the chest rising and sinking again. And you just try and do that for a minute to start with. That's it. That's the task. So your task is to focus on the feeling in your breath. And when you notice the thought, and there will be a thought probably within 5 seconds, in 10 seconds, the trick is to notice that it's happened, because
Okay. Mm-hmm.
this was one of the most amazing experiences for me. Was the first time I ever tried mindfulness, and it's the reason why I carried on and I'm still using it now, and the reason why I think it's absolutely vital for athletes to use. The first time I sat and I thought, okay, I'll just focus on my breath.
Mm-hmm.
5 seconds later, I was thinking about lunch later.
Mm.
5 seconds after that, I was thinking about something else random. And I realized that my brain is just throwing these thoughts at me. I have a task, a simple task, and I cannot stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
What a realization is that your brain is not, it's not on your side. It's not helping me stick to my task. It's doing everything it can to take me off focus. And that's just sitting in my room, trying to focus on my breath. So imagine taking that simple task with no pressure, no distractions at all. And now we're trying to, you're on the piste and you're trying to focus even more intensely on your opponent and the tactics, what's happening in the game. But you have a guy trying to stop you. You have your own fears and anxieties and emotions coming up. You have the referee who's almost always against you. You're from Britain and probably Austria. You have all of this stuff going on around you, and you're trying to focus. So you just imagine how much more kind of turmoil, how much more storm there is in your brain. And from the starting point, it's not there to help you. It's just whirling away in the background, throwing these thoughts at you. And we all experience thoughts that are just super unhelpful, super distracting, or totally unrelated to what we're doing when we're in a match. Everyone can recognize that. I don't even need to go into those.
Right.
So that realization in the first time I ever did my mindfulness was enough. It was a kind of an aha moment of like, wow. So if my brain's not going to help me focus, I need to train this skill.
Okay.
And that's all you do from there on in. Is you continue to sit in short periods. I mean, they usually say a minimum of 10 minutes is 10 minutes every day will actually be super helpful.
Okay.
You can do a bit less, you can definitely do more. And it's just going to the mind gym and doing reps of concentration.
Right. And you were mentioning at the beginning that you can basically train mindfulness in not specifically just in fencing or in practice, but basically in every context. Can you tell us something about this?
Yeah, well, it's always nice to start with the kind of specific sitting and breathing practice, so you get an idea of what you're trying to do. But really, mindfulness is about being present in any moment. So you can be mindful when you're eating a meal, and you just focus on the tastes and the smells, the sight of your meal. I'm as guilty as anyone in this, just sitting down, throwing the food into my face, and then I didn't even notice I'm watching something or reading something at the same time. I don't notice the meal that's just happened. So just spending a bit of time appreciating, noticing what is going into your mouth. You can do the same. You can do a mindful walking, where you focus on the feeling in the feet of your as you kind of move, feeling in your body, the wind against your skin. You can just be mindful in it for a moment, where you stop. You're drifting off, walking around, and you stop and you notice the tree in front of you, and you just look at it and really try and see it without thinking about it. Just notice the light in the tree. And this leads us into a place which is far more meaningful than just concentration training. It's about being aware of what's happening for you and in your life, but also kind of grateful. That you can't be grateful for the meal that you just shoveled into your mouth and then didn't really notice, and you can't be grateful for the light in the tree that you don't spend a second thinking about. You can spend 5 seconds just looking up at that tree, and you'll find some kind of gratitude about it, and you'll see the beauty in it. So mindfulness leads into some wonderful other areas, but really it can start in a super practical sense.
And you were mentioning specifically for athletes, so you would recommend to start with like 10 minutes per day. Is that how you would recommend? Okay.
If you want to train it,
Yes.
then you should be doing a minimum of 10 minutes a day. And it's really not easy. And the hardest thing is actually just carving that 10 minutes out in your day to make sure that you do it with discipline. But if you're an athlete and you want to achieve your goals, then you do lots of things with discipline. So this is not a long time, especially if you remember how much of the game is mental and how little mental training you're really doing. This is filling up your bank account of attention, that currency of attention. There are loads of apps at the moment, so you don't have to. You can just as easy. You don't have to do it by yourself. There are guided versions of meditation, which will also be guiding you to focus on your breath or the feeling in your body. But the idea is that you need to do it every day. And the interesting thing, even amongst people who recognize the value of mindfulness, is that they tend to pull it out of the bag when they're feeling particularly stressed, or they might think, oh, it's the night before a competition and I'm nervous, I'll do some mindfulness now. And it's a bit like not doing any physical training, getting to the week before a competition and thinking, oh, I'm really not in good shape, it's going to go to the gym.
Right.
It's not going to have the huge impact. So it's really worth thinking about it in the same context as you do physical training consistently in order to be able to perform and to use it when you need it. You need to train your mind in exactly the same way. But I think this understanding of training a mind, as you'll completely agree, I'm sure, it's not that accepted yet that we can train our mind in all the same ways. And those athletes, those people who understand that and find their own route to training, there are all sorts of ways, find their own route to training their own mind, have a huge advantage.
Right. I mean, there's a lot, you really have to shift your mindset, right? Because like, as far as I see it with a lot of athletes, is that if you work on your mental performance, it still has the feeling of, oh my, this guy really needs it, and this guy is not mentally strong enough. And with mindfulness, I mentioned before, it still has a sort of voodoo spiritual touch for a lot of people, even though there's so much research, and I mean, if Olympic medalists use it, if Olympians use it as athletes, but also the US military, there is a lot and a huge potential for each and every one of us.
And if you hear interviews with almost any kind of top superstar CEOs, they're all doing mindfulness. They're waking up at 5 a.m. and doing an hour's mindfulness in the morning. There's actually the Chicago Bulls were using mindfulness back in the 80s when they were winning historical victories. And it's amazingly, that was 40 years ago. The top team almost of all time was using it to achieve that level. And it caught on in small kind of places here and there, but we're still at that place where it's got this stigma around it, this kind of feeling like, is it really useful, or is it some voodoo kind of thing? And I mean, I think it's a non-negotiable. If you want to achieve your potential, you have to be doing mindfulness in some form as an athlete. We all know that feeling of being in the zone. Every athlete has experienced it and knows that is what they need to be. That's where they need to be. The thing about getting in the zone of flow is that it's super hard. Like you can't just do these steps and you'll be in the zone. It's so elusive. What you can do is prepare yourself to be, I mean, the thing about being in the zone is that you're super present. Nothing else exists almost. You're right there. You don't think almost, you're just in it, and it's about like super presence in the moment. So mindfulness is the only way, again, we know to train being present in the moment. And the more you do that training, the more likely you are to be focused and in a good frame of mind in a fight, so that you might at some point slip into the zone. So it's the closest we have to being kind of in the zone training is doing mindfulness.
it really resonates with me because like as an NLP trainer, you know, it's also a lot about high performance. And one of my mentors, he's basically the co-creator of NLP, so neuro linguistic programming, and he used to tell me, Johannes, the problem is never the problem. It's the state with which you enter the problem. And what he wanted to say with that is like, if you already go in the match, you know, with fear or expectations or thinking of, I have to win this match, otherwise I will not achieve this, or I don't know, you know, my friends and my family are watching, and this is why I really have to win this match. I mean, you're absolutely not in the moment, right? And this is why, you know, it really combines the things together in some way.
And yeah, you're exactly right. So those thoughts and emotions that come up in a normal match, they are almost automatic. It's very rare, and you can battle against them for years and years, and you won't win that battle. Your brain is too powerful for that.
Right.
To give up and just shut down and quieten down so you can just focus. Those will be going on forever. So the idea with mindfulness and the mindfulness approach to sport is that you don't try and fight that battle. You just accept those thoughts and emotions for what they are, that they're there, and you decide to do the job anyway. So there's a real part about, you don't judge yourself for being nervous or fearing losing or all of these. You don't judge that in yourself. You just accept, okay, I'm nervous, I need to do this now. It's all about just bringing yourself back to the moment, and what do I need to do right now? And that's really where we're getting to in sports psychology, actually, is the understanding that the very best in the world, it's not that they don't feel nervous and they don't feel fear and that they're just super confident. It's they all feel all of those things. They also have fear, they also have nerves and doubts and anxiety, and they've just learnt how to do the job anyway.
Right.
That's what marks them out. It's not the fact that they don't feel any of those things that means they're the best. It's that they feel them and they know what to do.
Right. And guys, just for you, yesterday I was talking to a sports psychologist from US, from California. His name is Tyler Buxley, and he's a 15 times ultra marathon finisher. And he was basically talking a lot about, you know, exactly what you've been saying right now. And like when he's working with athletes and himself as well, that of course, you know, in such a long, you know, ultra marathon, it's in tremendously long distance, right? And he was saying, of course, you know, there are situations that you cannot control. So the weather is getting bad, it's getting raining, it's getting cold, or it's getting super hot, right? But your challenge is to continue. Doesn't matter what, and you get, as you mentioned before, that you just do your job and focus on what you have to do right now. And he was interviewing. I think this guy won one of the Ironman last year, and he told him that at kilometer, I don't know, 30, he basically wanted to finish. And what this guy did as a strategy was that he said, okay, I'm doing literally one step, and if I'm finished that step, I'm doing the next step, right? And this is so, I mean, we all hear that in fencing, okay, always focus on the next touch, right? But I'm sure that mindfulness can help fencers also in that way, really to focus on this specific touch. And if that is done, then
it's a wonderful example from running. The advantage they have in running is that you can really find a rhythm,
right?
And there's no one who's like standing in front of you, pushing you and holding you back like there is in fencing. So it's a super mindful approach. Just focus on the next step, because the next step is what's now, right? And then you focus on now and now and now. In fencing, our version is focus on the next point, the action that's happening right now. But on the one hand, you've got all the emotion that comes from having just lost the point before or won the point before, and how great that felt, and all the doubt about that it's 14 all and the next point means everything. All of this stuff that's happening in front of us and behind us. is trying to kind of shake us off focus. So absolutely, the fencer who can keep their focus on the point right now more than the other guy is the one who will win almost. I mean, it can often be that simple. At the top of the world, everyone has the skills to beat almost everyone else. It's just a mental game that really makes a difference so many times. And that focus piece, it's certainly what makes the difference between seniors and younger athletes. So experienced athletes and younger athletes is just knowing how to keep the focus in the right place. But there are plenty of top seniors who still struggle with really that 100% focus, and that's what we're all going for.
And the last topic I would like to talk with you is the project that you have mentioning at the beginning. You know, it's basically the True Athlete Project. Can you give us an introduction to this great project?
Yeah, well, I got involved after I retired from fencing in 2016 after the Rio Olympics. And I spoke to the founder, the CEO, a guy called Sam, and he just had this approach that just really resonated with me. So it was about a much more kind of holistic, kind of whole person approach to developing athletes and seeing sport, the power of sport to make a difference in the world, but also the power to make a difference for the individual. And it means changing the focus away from how many medals and what results can you achieve to how can you grow and become a healthy, happy person who finds meaning in life.
Great.
And so the way we do that is by developing various programs, often all of them actually mindfulness based. So we see mindfulness right at the center of so much more. It's at the center of performance, but also mental health, as I mentioned at the beginning. It connects to a compassion for other people as well as yourself. So you kind of start thinking about how you can improve the world around you. And so the programs we have, I'm the director of the mentoring program, which matches top kind of elite Olympic, Paralympic athletes with young aspiring athletes and in different sports, and leads them. They're together for a year working and having sessions every 2 to 3 weeks and working on a curriculum of different things. Basically, that was amazing. I got an opportunity then to develop this curriculum, which was all of the things I thought I experienced throughout my journey, but would have loved to have known as a cadet, as a junior.
Okay.
So things like mindfulness, working on my values, some sports psychology, and then there's bits about community and responsibility. So your platform as an athlete at any age, even as a cadet, as a junior, if you're representing your country, you have others looking up to you. In your club, you have a platform to make some impact in the world. So that's the mentoring program, which I work most with. We do some coach development. We run workshops. We have a mindfulness class, actually. So if people are really interested in learning more, we have a mindfulness for sport 6-week class.
Great. Okay.
So this is about taking mindfulness away from the kind of the Buddhist, spiritual, religious roots and just showing this is how it can improve your performance and your state of mind.
Is this the class that you've been mentioning? Is this online or offline?
It's online, yeah.
Okay, so people can go on the website for this. It's the trueathlete.org, as far as I remember.
The trueathleteproject.org.
And do you also have programs for clubs and federations?
We're currently doing a 2-year project with British Fencing.
Great.
Which is based on working with all of their talent and elite athletes and their coaches and even the staff of the federation. So it's a really full kind of program with them. And yeah, we have offerings, kind of coach development workshops and mindfulness classes for clubs and for coaches. So our idea is to work from grassroots all the way up to the top. So we would do some work with primary schools and community sports centers.
Great.
So it's a wonderful idea, and the vision, the mission of kind of really unleashing more of sports potential for the world is just one that I'm in love with.
Great. So it's basically for athletes, but also for very young, for children. There are projects for schools, for clubs, and for federations if they're interested. And
Yeah.
how they can get in touch with you? Can they just can we contact you with email or?
Yeah, I'm happy for people to write to me. Probably my personal email is fine to use, l.o.halsted@gmail.com. And then I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook.
Right. And we will also, in the show notes, we will link the trueathletes.org webpage where you can, I'm sure you can, I mean, I've seen it, I know you can get further information and a very detailed structure on what your guys are offering on great programs. Laurence, thank you very much for your time and for the insights in mindfulness and the benefits for athletes. It was really great having you. And yes, thank you one more time for
a pleasure. I'm always happy to talk about mindfulness and the benefits of a healthier approach to sport.
Thank you very much. So guys, we will also put a link to the 6 weeks online, 6 weeks you said, right? The 6 weeks online class so that you can basically go there directly. And for the clubs and federations, there will be the web page that will help you to find them. So one more time, thank you very much and have a good day, Laurence. Thank you. Bye. Okay.